Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report, 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Tuesday night, October 27th, 2009. Damian Nelson here alongside the man they call Meathead, David Hero, and yes, he's here, ladies and gentlemen.
You said it, the man they call Meathead,
He is with
David
us
Hero.
live. He is here
Wait,
in
who?
our downtown
Who?
Milwaukee studios, the Kaz.
Gentlemen, good evening.
Welcome back. The Kazinator.
It's back.
Kazilla.
What an amazing day
Hi,
it
Frank.
has been. What an amazing day it has been in the wrestling industry. Gentlemen, huge news that no one could have predicted, news that no one had projected. That the news that Hollywood, Hulk Hogan,
Or Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
has signed on with Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. Yes, indeed, exclusively broken today at Madison Square Garden in a press conference with Spike TV and TNA Wrestling, and Hulk Hogan is now part of TNA Wrestling. Gentlemen, this is obviously some of the biggest news to come out of professional wrestling, I would say, obviously since Shane McMahon resigned from WWE, but even, you go back even further than that, and I would liken this to July of 2002 when Eric Bischoff debuted in WWE as the general manager of Raw.
You don't think it's bigger than that?
I don't think it's bigger than that, no.
It's not.
Hogan's got no negative history with TNA aside from his brief press conference appearance in Japan a couple of years back.
When he took a guitar shot to the head.
Let's give you the specifics and the details as we know them right now. Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff, yes indeed, we said Eric Bischoff, have both signed on to be a part of TNA Wrestling. In what capacity, we're not exactly sure. Hogan has said, as recently as tonight on Larry King Live, that he does not expect to be wrestling. However, since then, we have learned that Hogan does plan to be in the ring by the end of November in TNA Wrestling. Gentlemen, there is so much to talk about as the details come out pertaining to this story. Eric Bischoff, part of TNA Wrestling, after saying he never would be. Hulk Hogan now part of TNA Wrestling as well. This shakes not only TNA, but the wrestling business really upside down.
You know, for me, I think it makes TNA very relevant. And like the $1 Million Man has said many of times, everybody's got their price. And for Eric Bischoff to come in, it's a deal with Spike TV to get his programs on cable.
Yeah, and as we know, and as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, TNA and Spike TV signing a new agreement, a 3-year agreement, and part of that agreement includes some additional programming that will be coming out, 10 hours of year, 2 of which TNA has already used for this year. But Hogan and Bischoff have talked long about a reality show, and Hogan talked about that on Larry King Live tonight on CNN as well. So the opportunities are bountiful, but gentlemen, let's talk about, go around the table and talk about the impact that this might have, in your opinion, on the professional wrestling business. And we're going to give you, the fans, the opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. The number is locally 276-ESPN, 276-3776, or all over the world at 1-800-990-3776. That's 1-800-990-3776. We're also live at the Chatmosphere at PWRshow.com. And lest we not forget, there's been some communications going on with a special guest that might be joining us in a few minutes here on the show as well to talk about the rumors of him going to TNA Wrestling. So gentlemen, let's get right down to it, and we'll start with you, the man they call Meathead. What impact, no pun intended, will Hulk Hogan signing with TNA Wrestling have on the business, the industry?
Hulk Hogan signing with TNA won't have as big an impact, obviously, as it did when Hulk Hogan signed with WCW back in the day. I believe it was 2004. They had a huge parade for him down at, Disney World, Universal Studios, that whole thing. Shaquille O'Neal riding a float with him. Jimmy Hart was there as well. It's not going to have that big an impact as it did then. What they need to do with Hulk Hogan, at least in my opinion, what they need to do with Hulk Hogan is you gotta let other people know that Hulk Hogan is in TNA. Now the wrestling fans, they're all going to know that Hulk Hogan's in TNA. I mean, there isn't a wrestling fan out there right now that isn't connected to the internet, connected to tweets, connected to YouTube, that's going to not know that Hulk Hogan's in TNA. But what you need to do is let the casual viewer know. How do you do that? You do that by advertising. You do that with a mega media blitz. Hulk Hogan needs to be on every mass media, outlet. Let them know I wrestle
right now, this whole week.
It's just started. He was pushing his book, but now he's adding TNA to that as well. He needs to let everyone know. It started tonight. He was on Larry King Live. Now, I didn't know Larry King was still alive. I thought he was like 147 years old, but apparently Larry King is still alive.
He's still there.
Milwaukee, hello!
So that's where it's got to start. What we've talked about, and Dave has mentioned this before, when Kevin Nash has mentioned this before, people don't know that TNA is there. The wrestling fan that disappeared when WCW left may not even know TNA exists right now. They got to get the word out that they're here, that they have Hulk Hogan, and if this is what you're missing, come and check us out.
This is big. It's big right away. More importantly, what will they do with Hogan in the coming weeks? Because there'll be the people that will watch and go, hey, it's Hulk Hogan. Hey, it's Eric Bischoff. It's together. So the first couple of weeks, you're going to get that, I think, that casual viewer, if he or she gets that information. But then is the real meat and potatoes that you're looking for.
Ding!
Because how are you going to grasp that audience? So there's so many ways that this can go. Right away, it's big. There should be a rating spike. There better be a rating spike.
And we do know Hogan will be on TNA Impact this Thursday. Not sure if he'll be live there. Actually, well, I'm not sure how they're going to do that because it was taped already. But
They'll do a little vignette. You
He'll
know,
be on Impact this Thursday.
there'll be a fireside chat with Hulk Hogan on TNA.
Maybe
Yeah.
they'll do a parade.
Maybe they'll do it live.
We'll do it live! The most important thing, what do they do in, let's say, a month? When he has, if he has a first match or who he's matched up with. Because you can do this a couple different ways if TNA is smart. Now, you can take the easy way and match him up against someone that makes sense in the ring if he gets in the ring, or they can take a risk, and it's a big risk, and grab one of those wrestlers that you want to elevate and match him up. That's the risk. Are they willing to take it?
Well, we'll talk specifically about what TNA should do with Hulk Hogan later on in this program, but the question now is the impact it will have on the overall wrestling business. What will Hulk Hogan's involvement back in the industry on a regular basis mean for professional wrestling?
I think it's the biggest thing that could have happened to TNA. I'm willing to bet that for the past month or two, they've been working on this deal. Hulk Hogan's very calculating, and the thing is, it's kind of funny how the book tour starts this week. The same week they announce he's signing with TNA. You know, Jeff Jarrett's been gone for a few months. Him and Hogan have a relationship, and it's been well calculated. They knew this was going to happen.
You know, it's funny that you say that, though, that the book tour is starting at the exact same time he's signing with TNA. I think TNA may have done a Hulk Hogan and got him while he's doing his book tour to get people to talk about TNA. I think that's what TNA did to Hulk Hogan. I mean, normally we're all going to assume that Hulk Hogan did this to TNA. I think TNA did this to Hulk Hogan.
It's a perfect partnership,
Yeah.
because what it does is now Hulk Hogan, who right now I think is a bigger star than when he first went to WCW. He's been in the media for
a bigger crossover star, just a general pop culture.
No, he's a bigger star.
Pop culture.
Pop culture, yeah. And I think right now, people that have tuned out, now when they watch him on Larry King and Regis and the Today Show and Good Morning America, they can say, yeah, I'm in TNA now.
Right.
So it was well thought out. It was very well calculated, and TNA I think is the big winner. And now, it doesn't make it equal, but it's a little more of an even playing field.
Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Wrong.
When TNA started, did they not try to get Hogan, or did they, early on, promote that he would be like one of the first shows?
I think it was when they came over to Spike in 2004, 2005. They had a deal in principle with Hogan, and that fell through.
But
and
not
going
the
to
very
WWE.
beginning. The very, very beginning.
I don't think so.
No, but what you're thinking about is when Jarrett came into a room while Hogan was doing a Japanese interview. I believe it was an interview in Japan. He was doing a big Tokyo Dome show, and Jarrett took him over the head with a guitar.
What's going to be interesting is to see how Eric Bischoff, Hulk Hogan, and Vince Russo all coexist.
So much history there, and we'll talk about those relationships later on in the program. But as far as the impact on the wrestling business, we did an episode of the Pro Wrestling Report Express television show on September 22nd, 2009. The question of that episode, the one question we attempted to answer was, did Hulk Hogan make WCW famous, and did he make WWE famous, and what motivations would he have to go to TNA Wrestling? In that episode, we talked in-depthly about all three of those things. This man has arguably been the one person who has made WWE. Arguably the one person who made WCW. This now, I think, Hogan in TNA will be the man who makes TNA, and Hogan, when he finally does move off into the sunset, will be able to say, if there was a wrestling company on a national scale in the United States of America, while he was in the business, while he was alive, he made each of those companies.
Here's the difference. WCW had a live show. Obviously Raw and stuff have live shows. For the most part, TNA does not have live shows. It's a little bit different atmosphere.
Well, they're going to have live shows because you watch how the whole
but they have
it's going
to
be
do
tied
that.
into TNA.
They have to do that then. That means that down the road, a pay-per-view has to be out of Orlando and somewhere else. Some of these shows have to, we're going to have a special, TNA this Thursday live. Hulk Hogan's going to be there. They can get an extra 2,000 or 3,000 people in an arena to make it look full.
To Meathead's point, if they do this right, if they publicize it right, and I think they're on that right track, in the next week or two, they've got to have a live Impact, which would be Hogan's live Impact Zone debut. They will show.
I think you're wrong.
They will go into that and come out of it with probably the strongest rated Impact they've ever had. Dave, why am I wrong?
Here's why they can't go live. What if the fans don't take the Hulk Hogan?
Oh, they'll take the Hogan.
Your casual fan, what they're doing, it's the fans that won't take the Hogan are the ones that are already watching. Those are the ones that don't want to see Hogan. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I don't want to see Hogan, but the ones that they're trying to pull in are the ones that haven't been there in a while.
And it's interesting.
The casual fan.
I've talked to some people on TNA, and it's split 50-50. Some of them are ecstatic that he's going to be there. The others are like, it's not going to help. It's not going to make a difference.
And that's the interesting part. Which wrestlers are saying it? Are they the young wrestlers?
Well,
or
the guys like Kurt Angle, he's ecstatic. Kevin Nash is ecstatic. It's some of the
they
younger
realize
guys.
what this can do for the company.
But the younger guys feel
money.
feel that there goes my spot, there goes my chance.
Well, and you think about it. Right after Bound for Glory, they push all the young guys. There was no Mick Foley.
Heavily, strongly,
Aggressively. Yeah, it was all the young guys on TV. And then Rhino comes out there saying how they're trying to put all the old guys out. Well, now they bring in the biggest name and
old guy
in the history of pro wrestling.
Right.
Who has a history of pushing them out. They made that a story and it was real.
Right.
Here's where we know if TNA's serious. And you guys will probably laugh. If they have the merchandising, if they got the t-shirts and stuff ready, it's been,
in the works.
In the works for a while.
Yeah.
If they're going to do a live show, they've got to do it right away. It has to be done. The
to
guy's
Damien,
50-something years old.
And again, to Damien's point, as he just said, that's when you make Hogan debut at Impact.
But Hogan's not going to wrestle.
Just
He's not going to do anything.
In the arena, that's all he needs.
He's going to go out there, cut the promo, talk about...
Are you telling me Hogan would even know how to do what to do in a six-sided ring?
But Mick wasn't going to wrestle either.
Well, no, but it took Mick a while to get in ring shape.
That is
also.
absolutely true.
Hogan's never going to be back in ring shape.
But here's the thing.
He's in better shape than, I'd say, half the guys on the roster right now.
Are you insane?
Better physical shape, not condition.
Well,
because he's got
Hogan's blown up when he
injuries,
starts
he's got
moving.
bad knees,
He can't do his finishing moves.
he doesn't have to do everything, though.
He has to do one of them. He has to do the leg drop.
There is no leg drop. I guarantee you.
He can't.
No.
He's got a busted up hip.
He'll never do the leg. Well, he might do it once, but...
And then they have to cart him off.
Well, unless he does it differently.
Well, when
How
Hogan,
do you do a leg drop differently?
When Hogan was in WWE, he was something new. That's why he was so big. It was a whole different rock and wrestling thing coming out. When he went over to WCW, that was '94. Let's remember this. It was before the Nitro, before Monday Night Wars started. When Hogan came over, they did it right. They had the huge ticker tape parade down at Disney. They made all kinds of noise about it.
The whole thing.
Bash at the beach, and that's a great point there, Frank. They brought over so many other talents as well. Hogan's friends,
which you know is going to happen again.
Which
Jimmy Hart is going to be side by side with Hulk Hogan.
Dave Harrow,
so does that mean we're going to see the Disciple again? I mean, Beefcake again?
Dave Harrow, you and I had a conversation on phone yesterday, it might have been, about, and the question I asked you was, how is TNA different from WCW in 1995 and 6? And
I want to know how to get in on these conversations that they have.
Changes the answer that both of us would have had to that question, because TNA has all the same tools, essentially, as WCW did, but aside from your point, David, was that they don't have Turner's checkbook, but they've got a checkbook.
Ding ding.
But they don't have a network.
Exactly.
Right.
But they do have Spike behind them.
Now, you get those casual fans like me had talked about. They haven't watched wrestling in years because they're Hulk Hogan fans. They turn it on, they see Hogan in the ring, and they see a six-sided ring.
They're not going to turn it on. They're going to first see him on the Today Show, or they're going to see
Right.
him on, and then, wow, what's TNA?
Right. Now they're going to see a six-sided ring and go, well, what is this?
And can't that be enough, though, David?
Oh,
Couldn't that be enough?
Absolutely.
Because what if the Kevin Nashes and the Kurt Angles of the world had to say, on this very program, people don't know TNA is out there.
you know, I wonder if Spike gave TNA that 3-year deal because Hogan was in the mix.
I agree with you. There's no
Possible.
doubt they've been working this angle since at least June. Because that was when the first news came out about Hogan, the first
You're talking about the Australia tour?
interviews that came out when Hogan was all of a sudden saying things that were favorable to TNA. Saying things that were favorable to him potentially coming into TNA. Saying they need just that one next big move, that one big star to make the company. I think they've been working this since that. I think Jarrett's gone because of it, because as we talked about earlier, what could happen between Jarrett and Hogan is very intriguing.
Including Russo.
This is not, people don't give
There's a lot of layers
TNA,
to this.
people don't give TNA enough credit, especially if they have planned this out like I'm speculating that they have done. We've got Glenn from Orlando on the phone. We're going to take that call when we come back. You can join us on the phone lines, number 276-ESPN or 1-800-990-ESPN. Hulk Hogan signs with TNA Wrestling. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.